Howie Roseman does it again. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now. We're live here on Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. And no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, as always, thank you so much for making our live show a part of your day as the Philadelphia Eagles have re-signed linebacker Zack Baun. This news just coming down within the hour here from ESPN's Adam Schefter, and here is the tweet with all of the financial details to it, that the Eagles are re-signing All-Pro linebacker Zack Baun, going to be a 3-year contract for the 28-year-old, $51 million total, including $34 million in guaranteed money at signing, with an additional $1.5 million in incentives and escalators. The contract instantly makes Baun one of the highest paid linebackers in the NFL, and that comes out to an average annual value of $17 million per year, making Baun a top 5 highest paid off-ball linebacker in the sport. And Howie Roseman has finally signed a linebacker to a big-time contract. I think he saw the impact that Baun was able to have, and he got with Vic Fangio, and they both came to the agreement, yeah, we need to bring this guy back, considering how good, how important he was to the Eagles' defensive success in 2024, as they had the #1 overall defense in the National Football League. A lot to talk about here during the live show. Do want to hear from you, though, because I know a lot of Eagles fans are pumped up about this. Grade the re-signing of Zack Baun. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know down in the comment section right now. I've got to go A. During my perfect offseason plan, I explained why it was so important for Philadelphia to bring back Zack Baun. Plays with such great feel, plays with such good instincts, a vocal leader on the defensive side of the ball. We really saw that after the Nakobe Dean injury, and just the player development that took place within the year really was incredible. That was something that I asked Howie Roseman about at the Super Bowl. I said, how did you identify Zack Baun as a guy who could play off-ball linebacker? He pointed to the athletic traits, and those athletic traits resulted in him just being a tremendous player. I see Bam Bam saying A, Len Hamilton saying A, Derek Rivera, A+. I saw my guy Peter Thurman in the chat a little bit earlier, Millie315 going A+. Now you take a look at the highest paid inside linebackers per year. These are the off-ball linebackers, and Zack Baun checks in right now at 4th. You have Roquan Smith making $20 million per season, Fred Warner at $19.05, Tremaine Edmonds at $18 even, and then there's Zack Baun at $17 million. And there's a pretty sizable gap between 4 and 5 there, with Baun making $17, and then Patrick Queen at $13.67, followed by Azeez Al-Shire, Zaire Franklin, Bobby Okereke, Foysad Olukun, don't even know how to say his name, and then Jordan Brooks there at 8.75. Olukun. We will be doing a mailbag here during the live show, so use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. Want to answer all of your questions. So once again, use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat, and we'll answer your questions live here on the show. More than 200 people watching live. We went live right after the news broke. If you're ready to talk some Eagles, I need everybody right now to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If you want to send in a super chat, we can, of course, get things going there on that front as well. But I am ready to go in depth to give you my thoughts on Philadelphia bringing back Zack Baun. Breaking news right here on the show. So continue to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. Let's get to 100 likes in the next 30 seconds. We should be able to do that. Huge news for this fan base, huge news for this defense and organization. And with that, let's officially start the show right now. We have some breaking news to hit. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And think about what's transpired all within the last month for the Philadelphia Eagles. They throttled the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59 down in New Orleans. Couple of weeks later, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, the coaching staff in the front office, they're at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, and that took place last week. Yesterday, Howie Roseman signed Saquon Barkley to a record-breaking contract extension, biggest deal ever for a running back. And then the following day, he signs arguably his defensive MVP from the 2024 season as Zack Baun is going nowhere. Free agency set to get underway on Monday, and Howie Roseman said, let me take care of two of the most important players who helped lift us to our second Lombardi trophy. ESPN's Adam Schefter breaking the news on this Wednesday afternoon on this beautiful March 5th, and this is beautiful news right here. Eagles are re-signing All-Pro linebacker Zack Baun. It's a 3-year, $51 million contract, including $34 million in guaranteed money at signing, with an additional $1.5 million in incentives and escalators. The contract instantly makes Baun one of the highest paid linebackers in the NFL, and that figure rounds out to be exactly $17 million in average annual value. I have talked about bringing back Zack Baun a lot here on the show. This was a must-do move for general manager Howie Roseman, because this Eagles defense was the #1 overall unit in the NFL in 2024. What a coaching job by Vic Fangio. But they were really paced specifically by two players. And it all starts up front, I believe, when you scout football and when you watch football. And that's why Howie Roseman builds along the trenches. He called it a healthy obsession. His constant pursuit of trying to find offensive linemen and defensive linemen. And so at the point of attack, Jalen Carter had an all-pro caliber season. But at that second level, behind what was a very stout Eagles defensive line, which was even better in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl as compared to the regular season, was that second level, that linebacking core with Zack Baun. Zack Baun was just incredible for this team from start to finish. And it all got underway with his debut with the Eagles in Brazil against the Green Bay Packers, where he was making game-changing play after game-changing play. And that continued to be the theme for the rest of the season. And after Nakobe Dean went out, he wore the green dot. Vic Fangio relayed the defensive plays to him. He became an on-field leader, a vocal leader, and a cultural leader for this football team. And the Eagles hit on him by signing him to a 1-year deal worth about $3 million. It was one of the best value deals among all 32 teams in the National Football League. And the Eagles identified him as a player who previously, after being a third-round pick out of Wisconsin by the Saints, had only played edge rusher and special teams. Howie and Vic Fangio looked at Baun as a player who was athletic enough and had the traits and versatility to be able to play off-ball linebacker, and he was a first-team All-Pro and finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. And just like Howie Roseman rewarded Saquon Barkley by having one of the best seasons for a running back in the history of the NFL, the Eagles are rewarding Zack Baun, who is 28 years old, only has 1 year of great production, but was a mainstay for the top defense in the NFL, which completely fooled and perplexed Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And after making huge play after huge play in the regular season, Zack Baun did it time and time again in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. TFLs, sacks, quarterback pressures, pass breakups, sticky coverage. The peanut punch became a staple of his game. And because he plays with such good feel, he was able to read and diagnose plays, be at the right place at the right time. He was able to be in a spot before the play really started to develop so that he could make that play. And he was able to drop back in coverage for those pass breakups and some game-altering interceptions. And that impact was really felt from the jump. And after the Eagles had signed him, you're thinking, what is his role going to be? Is Vic Fangio going to utilize him in an Andrew Van Ginkel type of role? Because Van Ginkel with the Dolphins, when Fangio was the DC in 2023, had a breakout year as a pass rusher. But then in training camp, we're starting to hear Zack Baun's making plays. Devin White has been relegated from first team to the second team. Nakobe Dean was climbing up the depth chart. And then it was really Nakobe Dean and Zack Baun who really started to impress this Eagles coaching staff, where they became the two off-ball starting linebackers for this Eagles defense, and they never gave up those roles. Baun, moving forward and in 2024, elite off-ball linebacker, excellent athlete, plug gaps against the run, his versatility on display as a pass rusher. You can tell that he's done a lot of that before, But really what stands out is just the instincts, the feel, the pace, the high IQ that he plays with, and he's a very cerebral player. And at that linebacker spot, it's a little bit different for Philadelphia as compared to other positions on this team. You don't have a clear-cut player who is going to be able to step in for Baun if you lost him in free agency. You're also dealing with a pretty severe injury to Nakobe Dean. That was part of the reason, on top of the elite play, why I thought the Eagles had to bring him back. And in my perfect offseason plan, when we were recording that show outside of Lincoln Financial Field, on the eve of the second Eagles Super Bowl parade, I had said the Eagles needed to re-sign Zack Baun. And so fans should be excited about this. And I imagine that how we got with Vic Fangio, and they came to the agreement, this is a player who we have to retain. And we had a feeling that after the releases of Darius Slay and James Bradberry, designating both of those players as post-June 1 cuts, that Howie Roseman was going to be up to something. Is this that something? That money that was cleared up with the releases of Slay and Bradberry cleared up about $6.5 million in cap space. It's not available to the Eagles' disposal until later this offseason. It can't be used in free agency, but that money allocated can help absorb some of these contracts. As far as where Baun is on the highest paid off-ball linebackers list, this is average annual value, average salary per year. Roquan Smith making $20 million per season with the Baltimore Ravens. Fred Warner making just over $19 million with the San Francisco 49ers. Him and Zack Baun were the two first-team All-Pros at that off-ball linebacker spot. Tremaine Edwards has not been good, or Edmonds, has not been good with the Chicago Bears. He's making $18 million. And so when you compare Zack Baun to some of the other players on this list, and obviously there's a pretty big gap between the top four and everybody else, you have to kind of like the value that you get with this Baun deal, but the continued continuity that you get with this Eagles defense as well, with him headlining the second level of that unit. Eagles Super Bowl gear, Zack Baun helped the Eagles lift that Lombardi trophy, is available right now thanks to our friends at Fanatics. All you have to do is plug in that link down below, chatsports.com/EaglesSB. Shirts are for sale, hoodies, hats, jerseys, whatever you need to celebrate that Eagles triumphant Super Bowl 59 victory. You can find it by using that link down below. It's chatsports.com/EaglesSB. I'm going to put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. But be sure to smash that link so that Fanatics knows that Eagles Now sent you. Now, coming up next here on the show, I want to talk about some of the production that we saw from Zack Baun and just give you a really good indication of what he was able to do just by looking at the stats. Because when you watch the games, it just felt as though Baun was everywhere, sideline to sideline, making plays that resulted in so many pivotal Eagles plays and victories this past season. So he played in 16 games. He had 151 tackles that led the team, 11 TFLs, 3.5 sacks. And when I talk about the versatility for Baun, it was on display with the tackle number leading the team, the TFL number, his ability to make plays against the run, but the sacks and his usage as a pass rusher. As a stand-up pass rusher, either as an edge or in between the tackles, he was able to rack up quarterback pressures, quarterback hits, and sacks. And then, as an off-ball linebacker, too, in coverage, he tallied those 4 pass breakups, 1 interception, but he was a game-changing player with the classic peanut punch that Peanut Tillman made famous when he was playing with the Chicago Bears. And that was something that became an element of Zack Baun's game in the regular season, but also in the playoffs. Big plays really in every single playoff game against Green Bay, against the Rams, against the Commanders, and of course in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. His coverage numbers also excellent. He was targeted 56 times, gave up 40 catches for 279 yards, did not give up a touchdown in coverage, had those 4 pass breakups in the pick in the regular season, and then a quarterback rating when targeted of just 74.9. And going back to the story of Zack Baun, as far as the player development that we saw take place because he really did come out of nowhere and ended up being a tremendous value signing for Philadelphia. The previous 4 years, he really hadn't done much, right? In 2021, 30 tackles, no TFL, 0 pass breakups, 0 picks. Why? He was used exclusively pretty much by New Orleans as a pass rusher. 2022, 16 tackles, 1 TFL, no pass breakups, no picks. 2023, 17 games played, 30 tackles, 4 TFLs, 2 PBUs, and 1 pick. And Howie Roseman and Vic Fangio started to see some of the ability that he had in that 2023 season. But in 2024, he becomes a full-time player for the first time. He becomes an off-ball linebacker full-time for the first time. And it resulted in him becoming a fan favorite, one of the top defenders in the game, and a player who just made highly impactful and impressive plays over and over and over again. And as part of this conversation, we do have to talk about some of the other Eagles in-house free agents. Saquon Barkley has been taken care of. He wasn't up for a contract extension, but Jeffrey Lurie said he helped us win a Super Bowl. He was great. We only gave him $26 million in guaranteed money, so let's give him the biggest contract ever for a running back. They took care of Saquon Barkley as they should have because Saquon earned that, and that's how you earn stripes with other players, other agents across the NFL, because Howie Roseman's blueprint is out there. If you play well for us, we're going to retain you as part of our core, and we're going to reward you financially, and you're going to have a chance to win and win big in the city of brotherly love. Now, what happens with a couple of players here to my right? I think Milton Williams is gone in free agency. I think he's going to land a deal between $18 and $22 million per season. He's in his mid-20s, had the second highest pass rushing grade among all defensive tackles. He's only played 50% or less of the snaps throughout his career. And so if he goes to a team that pays him a lot, he'll get more snaps. Thus, I think the production goes up. It's also important considering his age, but there's not a lot of tread on the tires. And a lot of teams are looking for elite interior pass rushers, trying to work off the identity of how the Eagles were able to dump truck the Kansas City Chiefs. And so I think Milton Williams gets paid a lot. I thought Baun was going to get between $12 and $15 million per year. I was $2 million off, but he earned that, right? And the linebacker market figures to be somewhat lucrative. Another player who's in the background here of Milton Williams after that sack of Patrick Mahomes is Josh Sweat. I think Josh Sweat goes to a team like Arizona, or he goes to a team like the Commanders if they can't land Myles Garrett, and he gets between $18 and $22 million per year. So I've always said, I think Baun comes back. I think Milton Williams and Josh Sweat leave. I still am a believer that that's going to happen. As for Mekhi Becton, this becomes a little bit of a question, right? Tom Pelissero reported that Aaron Banks of the Niners, who's an average to good player, could get a deal paying him APY, $18 to $20 million per year. He's not even that good. Mekhi Becton is really good as a guard. I think he should stay there. I think that's his more natural position, given his size. I think he's a perfect fit as an interior offensive lineman. But if a team pays Mekhi Becton $15 to $20 million, the Eagles will not pay him that. And I'm not sure that they can after giving more money to Saquon, more money to Zack Baun, and they still have some needs on this roster. And so if they let Becton go, expect Philadelphia cost-controlled asset to elevate Tyler Steen, a third-round pick from 2 years ago, to play at right guard. And when he had to fill in during the 2024 season after somewhat of a rocky rookie year, he performed pretty well. And you have the most confidence that Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach in the NFL, is going to be able to elevate a player like Tyler Steen. So my read now is that Mekhi Becton leaves. Isaiah Rodgers is another marquee in-house free agent. I think with the Eagles letting go of Slay and Bradbury, they find a way to bring back Isaiah Rodgers. This will allow you to keep Cooper DeJean in the slot, which is, I think, his best position, because it allows you to use him in that versatile type of way. And then you bring back Isaiah Rodgers, who can play on the outside, played very well this year whenever thrust into duty, gives you special teams snaps as well. And I think that you can get him between $5 to $8 million. That's a pretty affordable price. So Zack Baun re-signing with the Eagles. I want to hear from everybody watching this show. Grade the re-signing. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know down in the comment section right now. Couple of super chats I want to hit. Angela G, $2 super chat. I already miss football. Love and prayer to all. I miss football too. You know what's crazy about the NFL? It's become a 12-month sport. And for me, I've had no breaks. We went through the regular season, playoff run, traveled to New Orleans for the Super Bowl, and then 2 weeks later, last week, I'm in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine. NFL free agency starts on Monday. NFL draft is at the end of April. The grind don't stop. Drizzy, a $5 super chat. If we can't get or pay Myles Garrett, do you think that Harold Landry is a cheaper or better option? Yeah, I've talked about him a couple of times. I do think Harold Landry is a player who Howie Roseman might have his eyes set on, a player who Philadelphia looks at, who's had production, who they can maximize, who can be a part of their defensive line rotation. So yes, keep an eye out for a player of that caliber. So we talked about the news of Zack Baun re-signing with the Eagles. What I want to do next is talk Darius Slay and Brandon Graham. So that's going to be segment number 2. Segment number 3, let's do a mailbag. Ask me about free agency. Ask me about the draft. I was just at the NFL Combine. I can give you any takeaways that you want. We can talk some prospects. We can talk some trade rumors. Get your questions in right now. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. If anybody sends in a $50 super chat, by the way, we'll sing Fly Eagles Fly. If we get to $100 in total super chats, we'll sing No One Likes Us. We don't care. But a reminder for the mailbag, hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. Segment number 2, we'll talk Slay. We'll talk Brandon Graham. That'll come up here in just a moment. Chip, let me bring you on, though. Re-signing Zack Baun. Huge move for this Eagles defense. Just want to gauge your thoughts on it because everything that I'm seeing from fans, he became a fan favorite. They're pumped up about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, it had to happen, right? And just watching him play this year was just so special because it's just, for years, it's always been this weakness for the Eagles.
Yep.
Intentionally, of course. But when you have like a difference-making player at that position like he was, it was a no-brainer. They had to keep him. As much as I like my guy Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I don't really think he's ready to step in and fill those shoes. And you mentioned the Nakobe Dean injury as well. I just love to see a story like this, man. Seeing him get his money, seeing him get his bread, and let's just hope he can continue to build off of it, man. Because for it to be your first year playing off ball, your breakout year, and you're an all-pro, one of the top 2 linebackers in the league, and that's your first year?
Yeah.
Man, if he can keep that up, and he's still a young player, they could have, especially if Nakobe Dean continues to rise, like one of the best linebacker duos in the NFL for years to come, and that can really make a difference. And we saw it play out all season long, man.
Yeah, what I'm also pumped up, too, about is that this Eagles defensive core, even if they lose Josh Sweat, they lose Milton Williams, the core of it, even without those players, is still young. It's still under contract. And you have to love, too, the continued continuity that you get with this Eagles defense as well. Vic Fangio said he wants to coach for a little while longer. He's one of the best defensive minds in the history of this game. And so the offensive side of the ball is set. Pretty much every offensive player outside of Mekhi Becton is under contract, starting-wise, for next year. We'll see what happens with Dallas Goedert entering the final year of his deal. So at the very least, you're going to return 9 of 11 starters on offense. Maybe even all 11 if you have Goddard and Becton on the opening roster. And then defensively, yeah, you might lose a couple of players, but Jalen Carter, young. Nolan Smith, young. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, going into year 2. Reed Blankenship, young player. Zack Baun, now under contract. Nakobe Dean, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., young players. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, heartbeat of the team. Got into it on Twitter with him today. I think he misunderstood what I was trying to say to him on Twitter. He's under contract as well. So this Eagles team in a really good spot. All right, segment number 2. Let's get to it. Want to talk Darius Slay, Brandon Graham, and should the Eagles sign Dre-Mont Jones? It's all coming up right now. Let's go. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and we have a loaded show coming your way. We have a Darius Slay update. Could he come back to the Eagles in free agency at the right number? We have a Brandon Graham injury update. What a dog he is. He tore his tricep again in the Super Bowl. And should Philadelphia reunite Vic Fangio with Dre-Mont Jones after he was let go by the Seattle Seahawks? Let's begin on the Darius Slay front. He said on Wednesday, March 5th, while on FS1, that he's not ruling out a return to the Eagles, that he would like to stay in Philadelphia to finish his career with the Birds if the money is right. Now, obviously, the Eagles released him on Monday. They designated him as a post-June 1 cut. The move saves Philadelphia $4+ million in cap space. What's also key here is that Slay was due a roster bonus of $14.5 million if he was on the roster. Slay also said, no bad blood with Philadelphia. I understand what happens after you win a Super Bowl, trying to manage the salary cap. Just the ultimate leader, team captain, and a guy who understands how the NFL world goes. He even saw that the writing was on the wall, because going into the NFC Championship game, he said publicly, I'm preparing as if this could be my last game at Lincoln Financial Field because I know what my cap situation is with the Eagles. I know where this team is going. I know that they might try to get younger, and I might not be a part of this Eagles team in 2025. Now, him returning was always a possibility. This also happened after the 2022 season. Remember how the Eagles were going to let Darius Slay go, and then they were able to bring him back? But obviously the question now, with a little bit of a salary cap crunch for Philadelphia, how much is he looking for, and how much are the Eagles willing to pay him? He wants to play one more year. He's coming off a good year. He's still playing well. He had a lot of pass breakups in the regular season, and then his Pro Football Focus numbers jumped about 10 points from the regular season to the playoffs. And all of these numbers in the regular season were pretty good according to Pro Football Focus. Overall grade of 67.6, coverage grade in the green as well at 68.9. In the playoffs, 77.1 overall grade. A coverage grade in the playoffs of 78.9. He was a legitimate lockdown guy on the outside in the postseason, and in the regular season, he was very steady and helped to usher in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Leadership, culture, being a veteran who helps young players, that all matters. And in the regular season, Slay still has the speed, he has the technique, he has the explosion and instincts to come through some pass breakups. He had 12 in the regular season. That was fourth among all cornerbacks in the NFL. I don't think that the Eagles are just going to be able to bring him back for the vet min. Slay is still playing at a really high level. Teams have an emphasis of trying to build their teams with quality corner play, and look at the resume that Slay's been able to put together. I don't think he's going to play his final year in the NFL for chump change. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's a first-team All-Pro in 2017, a 6-time Pro Bowler, interception co-leader during that first-team All-Pro season, an Eagles team captain, and he's a borderline Hall of Famer. A.J. Brown even said it. Now, do I think that Darius Slay is going to become a top 10 highest paid cornerback in the NFL? No, I don't. And the market for corners has really skyrocketed too over the last couple of years. Jalen Ramsey is making $24.10 million. Patrick Surtain, after signing that deal, coming off those Defensive Player of the Year honors, great year for him in 2024. He's making $24 million. Jair Alexander, 21 even. The Packers might release him. They are fielding trade calls on him right now. A.J. Terrell, 20 and a quarter. Denzel Ward, 20.1. Marshawn Lattimore, 19 and a half. A.J. Brown is his daddy. Marlon Humphrey, 19 and a half. Trayvon Diggs at 19.4. He's barely played over the last couple of years since signing that deal. You have Tyson Campbell at 19.13. And then L'Jarius Sneed at 19.10. So I don't think Slay is going to be in this grouping. But as we look ahead to the future, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, they might. And as the NFL salary cap goes up, player salaries will also increase. And so the cornerback market will continue to be robust. If the Eagles do bring Slay back, What it would do for this Eagles defense in 2025 is give them secondary continuity. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, all under contract. If Slay comes back, your entire starting secondary from the Super Bowl 59 victorious team would be intact once again for this upcoming season. I'm also a proponent and a fan of keeping Cooper DeJean in the slot. And why is that? When the Eagles took him and moved up in the second round with Washington to draft him out of Iowa, they took him thinking that he can play outside corner. He did a lot of that at Iowa and was primarily an outside guy. Before they drafted him, when I was scouting him, I had said, I kind of like DeJean in that slot nickel role because you can continue to use him as that versatile chess piece who doesn't have to be limited to playing on the outside. You can use him all around the field. As a blitzer, hybrid linebacker, and then in the slot, he can guard wide receivers in the flat, across the middle. He can guard tight ends. He can cover running backs on some of those wheel routes. And so I think that he worked so well there and played so well there. I'd like to keep him in the slot if you can bring Slay back. If you don't bring Slay back, you still have Eli Ricks and Keely Ringo who you can go to. If you do bring Slay back, you still have really elite depth there with Ricks and Ringo still under contract. Here's what Darius Slay had to say about being released. He said, it is a part of the business, and I'm not hurt about it. I'm not sad about it. This is what I signed up for. I knew I gave that team everything I had, gave that organization everything I had. So it's always a possibility of your boy coming back. This time I'm just thankful I could get ahead of free agency if I find me a good destination for myself. But hopefully we'll see how the Eagles do. If the Eagles do something nice, they know I'd love to be back. They know that. It sounds like Darius Slay wants to get compensated, and he deserves to be fairly compensated. And maybe he takes a little bit of a hometown discount to come back to the Eagles, or at least a familiarity discount to come back to the Eagles. But if they severely underpay him, there are going to be other teams like the Lions, like the Ravens, both Super Bowl contending teams in need of a corner who would welcome to have Slay back for Detroit or bring him in if you're Baltimore. What do you want to do? You're in the shoes of general manager Howie Roseman. Do you want Slay back? Type B for back or Y for youth. More to get to here on the show, but first, Eagles Super Bowl merchandise is available thanks to our friends at Fanatics. We've been telling you about these great deals over the last few weeks since the Eagles were victorious in Super Bowl 59. You can find your gear right now at chatsports.com/EaglesSB. That's chatsports.com/EaglesSB. Shirts, hats, hoodies, jerseys, polos, other stuff that you can put in your man cave or your woman cave. We'll put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. And we appreciate Fanatics for partnering with us here on the program. How about this story? This is wild. Brandon Graham is a warrior. He was in his 15th season. He tore his triceps in Week 12 against the Rams. Somehow had a miraculous recovery, came back for Super Bowl 59. We saw an image of him with a huge brace on his arm that he injured at a Sixers game recently. And I was thinking, did he re-tear his triceps? Well, according to Derek Gunn, formerly of Comcast Sportsnet and NBC Sports Philadelphia, they should have never let him go. Graham re-tore his triceps against Kansas City, and he has already had another surgery. In talking with him in the lead up to the Super Bowl, you had a thought that he knew there was a chance at a re-tear, but all he wanted to do was to be able to come back, play in that game against Kansas City, make an impact, and have an opportunity to become one of the few players in the history of Philadelphia sports to win multiple championships and one of a grouping of Eagles to win 2 Lombardi trophies. Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, Jake Elliott, Rick Lovato. The only players in the history of the Eagles to win 2 Super Bowls. And BG, who knows if he comes back in 2025? If that was it, what a career he had. Number 1 in games played in Eagles history. Number 3 in sacks behind Reggie White and Trent Cole. And just one of the greatest leaders that Philadelphia sports has ever seen. Both Graham and Nolan Smith, at that edge rusher spot, by the way, tore their triceps in Super Bowl 59. Nolan Smith expected to be back by training camp. If Graham comes back, hopefully that's the case for him. If he rides off into the sunset, what a career. But the Eagles certainly got banged up in that game. Brandon Graham needed surgery on his triceps. Nolan Smith did as well. Cam Jurgens had a back procedure. And then Landon Dickerson, he needed surgery as well. That's the cost of playing football. Also want to talk about this. Could the Eagles sign Dre-Mont Jones in free agency? An intriguing player because he has familiarity with Fangio. He can play defensive tackle. He can play defensive end. And if the Eagles lose Josh Sweat and Milton Williams in free agency, this could be a pretty affordable option for a player who Fangio knows, who's played very well throughout his career, to come to the Eagles. He was released by the Seahawks. I'm really not sure what Seattle is doing. They released Tyler Lockett. They released a couple of other starters, including Dre-Mont Jones. DK Metcalf has requested a trade. Geno Smith's going into the final year of his deal. So I'm not sure what Seattle is doing. But among the flurry of moves that they made, Jones was released. He was a third-round pick by Vic Fangio while with the Denver Broncos. He signed a 3-year, $51.5 million contract with Seattle. Primarily under Fangio, Fangio used him as a defensive tackle. He played a lot of defensive end with Seattle, and he was a little bit disappointing as a defensive end. But he's still only 28 years old with a lot of rotational upside. Here are his numbers in 2024. He had 28 tackles, 7 TFLs, 4 sacks, 13 quarterback hits, and a fumble forced. And his numbers the last 4 years. In 2021 with Denver, 5.5 sacks, 11 quarterback hits. The following season with Denver in 2022, 6.5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits. And then he goes to Seattle, only made it 2 years through that deal, 4.5 sacks in 2023, 4 sacks in 2024. I think that the Eagles would be able to maximize a player like that. Also, Clint Hurt, the Eagles defensive line coach, coached Dre-Mont Jones in 2023 with the Seahawks. So familiarity there on this Eagles coaching staff as well. Be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram in addition to all of the long-form content that I give you right here on Eagles Now. I talk Eagles all the time on my social media pages, so I'll see you over there. All right, one more segment to get to if we get some questions in for our mailbag.
Yes. Let's get those questions in. Let's see. We got a super chat from Drizzy asking a question. Miles Garrett. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
So we got Tanner Plummer asking a personal question about you and CJ GJ today.
Oh, nice.
Andrew Nathan always getting a couple questions in. Eric Camper, Cool Rings, King Dylan, BBG72. Gino and Joseph. Let's see here. Maybe a couple more, like 2 more questions. There's Jeremiah Glenn getting one in there, right on cue.
Yeah. Get those questions in. Hashtag Eagles. Send in a super chat. If somebody sends in a $50 super chat, I'm going to switch it up. $50 super chat, myself and Chip will sing No One Likes Us, We Don't Care. If we get to 100 total, we'll sing No One Likes Us, We Don't Care, and we'll sing Fly, Eagles, Fly.
I'm trying to sing, baby. I'm trying to sing.
Jeremiah Glenn getting a good question in. Carol Hosey as well. Tanner Plummer. We should be able to have enough questions there for the sack.
Yeah, looks good.
All right. Put your sacks on the keyboard. It's mailbag time. Oh, yeah, good call. Tushy on the sack. Let's see here. All right, let's take your questions live on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Hey there, welcome into the show. My name is Chase Sr., and you're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Thank you so much for hanging out here with us. NFL free agency getting underway on Monday. So to set the table for that, we're going to do a mailbag, open up the floor, hear from our real ones and our subscribers talking about the latest happenings pertaining to the latest Philadelphia Eagles news and rumors. And this is why you subscribe to the channel. Nobody interacts with their viewers like we do here on the show. And nobody gives you the content and the insight that we bring you here on this program. And we'll be live for free agency all week. 114,220 people are subscribed to this channel. Join the movement. You won't regret it. And you get Eagles videos for free every single day. Let's start off with Carol Hosey. Speaking of real ones, she is one of them. What are the chances we actually get a trade done for Myles Garrett? Look, when I was at the NFL Combine last week, I kept hearing the Eagles are real players for Myles Garrett. Howie Roseman could make a trade like this happen. Think about how Howie conducts business. Think about what Howie values. He's always aggressive. He's always in on star players. He always checks in on star players. He's always calling other general managers about players who are available, seeing what the cost is for a trade, and then you think about how he builds his football teams. This is a philosophy that he adopted from Andy Reid. And I grew up on Andy Reid football. What did he always emphasize, right? Offensive line, defensive line. Build your teams inside out. And that's what Howie has always tried to do. And that was a big reason why the Eagles were able to beat and absolutely annihilate the Kansas City Chiefs. So that team building strategy clearly works. And Howie is willing to invest in the defense, of course, on top of really investing in the offense. And Myles Garrett is a player who could really keep this defense at a clip where they're the number one defense in the NFL. And if you lose Joshua and Milton Williams, that outgoing salary can kind of be given to Myles Garrett in a way. So Howie prioritizes building the trenches. Philadelphia stopped Kansas City with their dominant defensive line. The Eagles are firmly in their Super Bowl window, sixth youngest roster in the NFL. They can let Sweat and Williams go and pay Garrett, and they have the draft capital to give up. Also, Andrew Berry, Browns general manager, used to work under Howie Roseman. So that line of communication is there as well. Drizzy with the $5 super chat. If we can't get or pay Myles Garrett, do you think that Harold Landry is a cheaper or better option? Over the last, I'd say, 2 years, the Eagles have been mentioned as a team that has checked in on Harold Landry, or they've been mentioned as a team that could show some interest. Landry is 28 years old, and his production, it's been really good the last 3 seasons that he's played. Now, he did tear his ACL in 2022, but before that in 2021, 12 sacks. Then he came off that ACL tear, and in back-to-back years, 10.5 sacks, 9 sacks. And that's a player who Howie could check in on as well, who isn't going to be at the price tag of a player like Myles Garrett. And maybe you settle for a player like that who could be a part of your pass rush rotation. Cool Reigns, what is with this silly rumor about A.J. Brown getting traded to New England? So it really has nothing to do with the Eagles taking calls on A.J. Brown. It has to do with the Patriots making calls to the Eagles about A.J. Brown and inquiring about him. They really need another wide receiver. They need a wide receiver in general. They have Drake May on his rookie contract. Last year as a rookie, Drake May was excellent. But they need to surround him with some playmakers. And so the Patriots have been mentioned as a team that could go after a T. Higgins. He's going to get franchise tagged, or did get franchise tagged, by the Cincinnati Bengals. They could be in the running for a DK Metcalf after he requested a trade from the Seattle Seahawks. They've mentioned wanting to trade for A.J. Brown. And according to reports out of Boston, they called Philadelphia about A.J. because of that relationship that he has with Mike Vrabel. They're very close. They're checking in on a player like Brandon Ayuk of the San Francisco 49ers. But really, it's a Patriots-fueled rumor as compared to an Eagles-fueled rumor. And I just don't think A.J. Brown gets traded away. I think it would be idiotic. You just gave him a contract extension last year. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the game. Every year that he's been with the Eagles since they acquired him in that draft night trade in 2022, he's had more than 1,000 yards. And he is just a dominant player. Going back to Myles Garrett. Do you want the Eagles to trade for Myles Garrett? Type Y for yes. Type N for no. Share your thoughts with me down in the comment section right now. More of your questions coming up around the corner. But first, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Tushy. You can save big on Tushy today by using the code CHAT at hellotushy.com/chat. March Madness is a sacred time of yelling at the TV while recovering from elective surgery. If you, like thousands of other men, are overlapping a vasectomy recovery with nonstop basketball, get a bidet. You're going to need a gentle touch in the bathroom. It's almost time to do my favorite dance of putting away the snowblower and getting out the lawnmower, only for it to dump a fresh 8 inches. While I wait for the weather to not cut my face, I'm going to spring clean my life, starting in the bathroom. Listen, that extra hour of daylight is so good for the mental health, but so hard on the morning routine. If you, like me, can sometimes take 20 minutes to do your business, scrolling X, looking at the latest videos on Eagles Now while you're on the toilet, sometimes it's a good time. But you need to get a bidet. Tushy helps me elevate comfort in the bathroom while getting me out the door sooner. It's a modern bidet that instantly transforms your bathroom habits and bottom health for life. And Aura is the new luxury bidet seat that turns toilet time into paradise. It's the brand new electric bidet with an auto-open lid and seat, instant warm water that never runs cold, and the UV sterilization for next-level hygiene. Here's the deal. Reclaim your comfort zone in the bathroom for a limited time. Our listeners and our viewers get 10% off their first bidet order when you use the code CHAT at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com/chat, and you use the promo code CHAT. It's a better way to do things. R. Wilson, any news of a Kenny Gainwell re-signing at all? I like Will Shipley, but I think Gainwell would still be nice as an RB2. No news on that front. Wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles brought him back. He's an underrated pass protector and pass blocker. I think he's always an underrated pass catcher. His ability to make guys miss is a skill of his. And on third downs, the Eagles turned to him a lot. And he was a trusted running back when Saquon Barkley exited the game. And you're not going to have to pay Kenny Gainwell much money at all in free agency. I will say the Eagles did meet with some running backs at the NFL Combine, including a player like Jaden Blue, who is a Blazer at that running back spot. You could reset the age there and have Shipley and another rookie as affordable players behind Saquon Barkley and this Eagles offensive line going into 2025. But I'd kind of be okay if the Eagles brought Gainwell back or if he went somewhere else and got a little bit of a pay bump. The King Dylan, who do you think that we will draft? So the Eagles are sitting there at number 32. I expect them to lose Milton Williams and Josh Sweat in free agency. We know that Howie loves to build up the offensive line and the defensive line. I think the Eagles either go offensive tackle as a future Lane Johnson replacement, or they go defensive tackle edge rusher. And a player who I would love for the Eagles to take at 32 is Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Good run stuffer, good pass rusher, very explosive, very athletic. Went to Texas A&M, transferred to Ole Miss, had a really good year in 2024. So that's a player that I would really like for the Eagles to take with the 32nd overall pick. Some chatter that maybe Tennessee edge rusher James Pierce could slide, and some people are like, don't let him fall to the Eagles. Defensive linemen could fall in a deep defensive line class, and so Howie has an opportunity to get a really good player with the final pick in the first round. BBG, what a profile picture right there. What's the cap room looking like right now? Any other big names for the Eagles to re-sign? So, let me take a look at the updated salary cap space. And I don't think that the Saquon Barkley deal is reflective on this yet, nor is the Zack Baun deal, because those moves aren't going to be made official until the start of the new league year. So as of right now, the Eagles have about $21.9 million in cap space. I don't even think that counts the Darius Slay or James Bradbury post-June 1 cut. So they probably have somewhere around $26 to $30 million. Other big names for the Eagles to re-sign: Isaiah Rodgers, Mekhi Becton. Again, I think Milton Williams and Josh Sweat leave. Other external names in free agency to sign. You know, they brought back Zack Baun. They extended Saquon Barkley. They don't really have a lot of needs in free agency. I think they draft the tight end Dallas Goedert's going into the final year of his contract, and some of the chatter I was hearing, and judging by the Eagles' actions of meeting with a lot of upper echelon tight ends from this draft class, I think they go tight end in the NFL draft. Anthony Byers, is there any chance that BG plays one more year? Retiring as a champ would be nice, but retiring a back-to-back champ would be even better. So we know for sure he's going to retire as a champ if he retires now. If he comes back, it's not known if the Eagles will repeat, although I think they have a great chance to run it back and become back-to-back Super Bowl champions. If the Chiefs did it, the Eagles can do it, and the Eagles probably more talented than the Chiefs, and they're younger than when the Chiefs ran it back and won back-to-back rings. Not sure what Brandon Graham decides to do. He re-tore his triceps in the Super Bowl, so that's going to be another long recovery after he originally injured that triceps in Week 12 against the Rams and then came back for the Super Bowl. So this was his 15th year. He's 36 years old. He still said that he feels like he can play at an elite level. He played at a very high level all year when he was on the field. Eric Camper, what's the thing about James Pierce with potential attitude problems being non-coachable? You know, I'm not sure specifically. Just teams have character concerns about him. I'm not sure what those character concerns are. But that was some of the chatter at the NFL Combine. So I'm not sure exactly what that pertains to, but kind of like how the Eagles were able to take Jalen Carter, they have the infrastructure in place. Great owner, GM, coaching staff, and leaders in the locker room to be able to sign a player like that and help them out to escape some of those issues. And they have that great culture so that player can have success. I think James Pierce would be able to have success with the Eagles, although he's a little bit lighter for a defensive end. Andrew Nathan. Chase, last year Howie tied the record in trades during the draft. I think he breaks that record this year because 2026 is supposed to be loaded with talent. Thoughts? Yeah, he could do it. What did he make? 9 or 10 trades in the 2024 NFL draft? 2026 is going to be crazy. If they lose Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, they could get some compensatory picks back for those players. And so that could definitely alter and change the draft strategy for Howie Roseman in Philadelphia. And we know that Howie's always going to keep things interesting. He's going to poke around, and he's going to be very aggressive. Don't forget to hit that sub button. It's Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr. Thank you so much for watching and supporting as always. Dennis Designs, $20. Hey, guys, good job getting the latest news. Appreciate that, Dennis. What did Tanner say about C.J. Gardner-Johnson and my tweet?
Oh, I meant to put that in there, too. I'll pop it up.
Yeah, let's pop it up. Who else is in the chat? Trick Shot King. Hi, I just joined. Welcome, Trick Shot. Chase, what did you think of C.J. Gardner-Johnson getting mad at you? I think that he misinterpreted my tweet. So for those of you who missed it, and it's also on C.J. Gardner-Johnson for tweeting out something that was going to stir the pot a little bit. So he tweeted out a Kodak Black GIF, and he said, "You would think feelings would be mutual after a great season, but ... A-Twin, keep that shit solid." So I just quote tweeted it and said the Eagles should redo his deal the way that they did Saquon Barkley's. He's been the heartbeat of the Eagles secondary the last 2 times they've made it to the Super Bowl. And then C.J. Gardner-Johnson quote tweeted what I said, and he said, "Bro, this has zero to do with the contract. Please stop spreading fake news." So I responded to that, and all I said was, I'm saying that you should get paid and rewarded for a great season that you were able to have as one of the leaders of this defense, heartbeat of this defense. You've played elite safety play the 2 years that you've been in Philadelphia, and you kind of signed an incentive-laden contract with the Eagles last year in free agency, and I think you've outplayed that. So the Eagles should show you your worth. That's all I was saying. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you know, the way that he carries himself is the way that he plays. That's what makes him great. He's an intense dude.
So there's a rumor going out there that apparently And I don't know why anybody like would know this when he tweeted that. I agree. It's like tweeting something like that out at that time. It's obviously gonna stir the pot, right? But there was the whole rumor about Slay saying something about C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened with that either.
Apparently, Slay said something in a podcast about Reed Blankenship being like a leader of the defense and all that, and he didn't even say anything about CJ. He just like didn't mention him at all, and I guess CJ took offense to that for some reason.
He's an emotional guy, but again, him being an emotional guy is why he's the player who he is. So
You need that fire, baby.
you need that fire. All right, myself and Chip, we're going to sign off. Wanted to go live, talk about this Zack Baun contract extension quick here on the show. Next week, I know we'll at least be live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for free agency. And we'll see what we do beyond that. But we're going to give you some great coverage, so be on the lookout for that. Can't wait for it. We'll be locked and ready to go because we always are. Go Birds.